On August 6, 1945, world history was made when the Enola Gay bomber dropped an atomic bomb on the Japanese city of Hiroshima. This event alone marked the beginning of the nuclear age and turned the world into a place of terror and anxiety. Today we're delving deeper into the reasons for its creation and how it left a nation devastated. The Pacific theater of World War II involved huge distances, so the US Army Corps realized it needed a bomber that could hit targets in Japan. From bases as far away as the Mariana Islands or even further, the B-29's design specifications included an unmatched range of 5,000 miles and the ability to carry a large bomb load. The requirements were for a top speed of 400 miles per hour and the ability to carry a 20,000-pound bomb load. To overcome the well-known air defenses of Japan and the growing use of jet stream winds at higher altitudes, the bombers were equipped with high-flying capabilities and large bomb capacities. The B-29 had a pressurized cabin and a high-powered engine, which were designed to overcome these difficulties. The US adopted the strategic daylight bombing of industrial and military targets to cripple the enemy's war-making capabilities. The B-29's advanced bombing and navigation systems, such as the Norden bombsight, were designed to assist in accurate high-altitude bombing. The B-29 program was also driven by the desire to push the boundaries of aviation technology. This aircraft's uniqueness was largely attributed to its innovative features, including but not limited to remote control of defensive weapons, pressurized crew compartments, and advanced avionics, all of which greatly expanded the envelope of available technology. During the war era, the B-29's main purpose was for World War II, but there was also a realization that there would be a need for a heavy bomber with capabilities that could be used in future conflicts for deterrence of war. Along with the Martin and Douglas companies, Boeing was given the contract in 1939 to design and manufacture the new bomber, which was to be called the XB-29. The airplane design team, led by Edward C. Well and Clyde Pangborn, had to overcome many barriers to produce such an advanced and equipped airplane. The B-29 Superfortress was very difficult to develop. The design was extremely complex, with pressurized crew areas that were challenging to engineer. The engines needed to be very powerful, and the remote-controlled guns were innovative but complicated. The B-29 required a huge range and high-altitude capabilities, pushing technological limits. Building the B-29 strained Boeing's production capacity. They had to meet a tight schedule for the war, source all the parts, and manage suppliers, which was a huge task. Costs went over initial estimates, and Boeing had to expand factories rapidly and train many pilots and crews quickly. Throughout the design and manufacturing phases, Boeing engineers grappled with ensuring the B-29 could withstand the harshest combat conditions over long distances. Modifications were frequently required to ensure the bomber could operate reliably and without battle damage. Delays and setbacks were inevitable for such an audacious and unprecedented aircraft program. Only through determination, innovation, and sheer man-hours were the challenges eventually surmounted, enabling the Superfortress to become one of the most capable and influential bombers of World War II. The B-29 program received immense funding and the highest priority from the government. The Air Force coordinated with subcontractors and suppliers to overcome material shortages, and officials expedited processes to implement changes and get planes operational quickly. The first XB-29 took off at Boeing Field in Seattle on September 21, 1942. By the end of the year, the second aircraft was ready for flight. 14 service test YB-29s followed as production began to accelerate. Building this advanced bomber required massive logistics. Boeing built new B-29 plants at Renton, Washington and Wichita, Kansas, while Bell built a new plant at Marietta, Georgia, and Martin built one in Omaha, Nebraska. Both Curtiss-Wright and the Dodge Automobile Company vastly expanded their manufacturing capacity to build the bomber's powerful and complex Curtiss-Wright R-3350 turbo-supercharged engines. The program required thousands of subcontractors, but with extraordinary effort, it all came together despite major teething problems. By April 1944, the first operational B-29s of the newly formed 20th Air Force began to touch down on dusty airfields in India. By May, 130 B-29s were operational. In June 1944, less than 2 years after the initial flight of the XB-29, the U.S. Army Air Forces, or AAF, flew its first B-29 combat mission against targets in Bangkok, Thailand. The mission called for 100 B-29s, but only 80 reached the target area. The AAF lost no aircraft to enemy action, but the bombing results were mediocre. The first bombing mission against the Japanese main island since Lieutenant Colonel Jimmy Doolittle's raid on Tokyo in April 1942 occurred on June 15th, again with poor results. This was also the first mission launched from air bases in China. World War II went on for years and many people died. The United States wanted Japan to surrender quickly to avoid more deaths from an invasion. The Manhattan Project made the first nuclear bombs in secret. These bombs could cause huge destruction. J. Robert Oppenheimer led this project with top scientists working at secret locations across America. After years of hard work, they had made 2 atomic bomb designs. One bomb was called Little Boy with enriched uranium. Explosives fired one uranium piece into another, causing a nuclear chain reaction. The other was Fat Man with plutonium. Powerful blasts compressed the plutonium. Both bombs released nuclear fission energy by splitting atoms, resulting in enormous blasts. Little Boy equaled 15,000 tons of TNT, and Fat Man was over 20,000 tons. As the bombs neared readiness, the B-29 bomber would deliver them. On August 6, 1945, the B-29 Enola Gay dropped Little Boy on Hiroshima, Japan. It exploded with a giant fireball. The shockwave and heat destroyed Hiroshima. 70,000 died instantly, and many more were injured. 60% of the buildings collapsed and fires burned what was left. Survivors had burns and radiation sickness. 3 days later, the B-29 Boxcar dropped Fat Man on Nagasaki. It exploded at a height of 1,650 feet with huge force. Around 40,000 people died instantly. Just like Hiroshima, Nagasaki was devastated. In 3 days, the 2 bombs killed 129,000 to 226,000 people, mostly civilians. Deaths continued to rise from radiation exposure. The bombs demonstrated an awesome destructive power never seen before. The entire cities disappeared in seconds. On August 15th, Japan surrendered after the Nagasaki bombing. World War II ended, but the nuclear age began. The B-29s were originally conventional bombers, but they dropped history's first nuclear weapons with terrible results. The bombings were of an entirely unprecedented and horrific destructive magnitude that stunned the world. 2 major cities were effectively erased from existence in mere moments by a single bomb's blast. Though controversial and still hotly debated, the attacks demonstrated the full power of nuclear weapons and were intended to force Japan's swift, unconditional surrender while avoiding even greater casualties from a full invasion. Estimates put the cost of U.S. military lives at $1.5 million for a full-scale invasion. On August 15, 1945, just days after the destruction of Nagasaki, Japan's Emperor Hirohito addressed his nation over the radio to announce its surrender to Allied forces, citing the new and most cruel bomb that had devastated Hiroshima and Nagasaki. World War II was finally over, but the atomic age and its terrifying potential had begun. The B-29 Superfortress bombers had been originally designed for conventional warfare, but became the first aircraft ever to deploy nuclear weapons in the most destructive single attack in human history. While bringing about the end of World War II, the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki also ushered in the dawning of a new age, where mankind now possessed the capability for unprecedented self-destruction on an unimaginable scale. Many survivors had burns and radiation sickness. Relief efforts tried to help, but more kept dying slowly from radiation. The cities were destroyed, leaving only ruins. It took decades to rebuild them. Memorials remind us of the horror of nuclear war. People still debate if the bombings were necessary or just killed civilians. There are no easy answers. We can only hope nuclear weapons are never used again. The B-29 mission started the nuclear age. Now the world could be destroyed by nuclear bombs. The US and Soviet Union raced to build more nuclear weapons. One nuclear bomb could demolish an entire city. Some wanted to ban the weapons, while others saw them as deterrents against war. The Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombings ended World War II quickly, but they also began the dangerous nuclear age we still live with today. Like this video and subscribe for more aircraft-related videos. Thanks for watching.